In the long and dramatic history of monarchies, there are rulers whose names are celebrated for centuries. Their victories are written in golden ink, their statues stand in public squares, and their stories are taught in schools. But not every king receives such honor. Some rulers are deliberately removed from history, their achievements ignored, and their names quietly erased from official records. One of the most mysterious examples is the story of the king history tried to erase. This forgotten ruler once held immense power, yet over time his existence was pushed into the shadows, almost as if the world was meant to forget he ever lived. The king in this story was once admired by his people. When he first came to the throne, the kingdom was struggling with political tension, economic difficulties, and growing unrest among the nobles. Many people feared that the country might fall into chaos. But the young king had a different vision. Instead of ruling with cruelty or fear, he believed in reform, justice, and change. He introduced new laws to protect common citizens and reduce the power of corrupt nobles who had controlled the kingdom for generations. At first, the people celebrated these decisions, believing their ruler was finally bringing fairness to a system that had long favored the wealthy and powerful. However, the king's reforms quickly created powerful enemies. The nobles who once dominated the royal court felt their influence slipping away. They began to see the king not as a hero, but as a dangerous threat to their authority. Secret meetings started taking place behind palace walls. Whispered conversations spread through corridors filled with suspicion and fear. The word conspiracy began to surround the throne. Powerful families quietly worked together to weaken the king's support and slowly turn the royal court against him. As the tension grew, the king faced an impossible choice. He could abandon his reforms and return power to the nobles, or he could continue fighting for the changes he believed were necessary. He chose to continue. His speeches became more passionate, his decisions more determined. He believed that history would remember him as the ruler who dared to challenge corruption and bring justice to his people. But he underestimated how far his enemies were willing to go. Soon, rumors began spreading across the kingdom. The nobles accused the king of madness, tyranny, and betrayal. They claimed he was destroying the traditions that had protected the kingdom for centuries. These accusations slowly reached the ears of the public. Fear replaced admiration, and doubt began to cloud the king's once strong reputation. The court historians, who were controlled by the powerful elite, started writing a different story. Instead of describing a reformer, they began portraying him as a reckless ruler whose actions threatened the stability of the kingdom. Then came the moment that would change everything. In a sudden and carefully planned political move, the nobles forced the king from power. Some accounts say he was quietly imprisoned inside a distant fortress. Others claim he was exiled to a remote land where he lived the rest of his life in isolation. The truth remains uncertain because the official records were deliberately altered. The king's name disappeared from royal documents. His portraits were removed from palace walls. Even the books that once praised his leadership were rewritten to remove his story completely. This act of erasing history was not accidental. It was a calculated effort to ensure that future generations would never remember the king who challenged the powerful. Years passed, and the kingdom continued under new rulers who restored the old system of noble privilege. Life returned to what it had been before the king's reforms. The people slowly forgot about the ruler who had once tried to change everything. But history has a strange way of revealing hidden truths. Centuries later, historians and researchers began uncovering fragments of lost documents, private letters, and forgotten records. These pieces of evidence hinted at the existence of a ruler whose story had been deliberately buried. As scholars studied these discoveries, a powerful realization emerged. The king who had been labeled dangerous and unstable may actually have been a visionary far ahead of his time. His reforms, once considered radical, now seemed remarkably modern. The more historians learned, the clearer it became that the king had not been erased because he failed, but because he threatened those who feared change. Today, the story of the forgotten king reminds us that history is not always written by truth alone. Sometimes it is shaped by power, fear, and the desire to control how future generations understand the past. The king may have lost his throne, and his enemies may have erased his name from official records, but they could not completely destroy his legacy. And perhaps the most emotional truth of all is this. Somewhere in the quiet pages of forgotten archives and hidden letters, the voice of that king still exists. A ruler who once dreamed of justice for his people, who believed the future could be better than the past. Even though the world tried to forget him, his story still whispers through time, reminding us that some heroes are not celebrated in monuments, but remembered in the courage of the ideas they dared to defend.